with the Better Government Lab is going to examine innovation in government and the role that technology plays in that innovation. In particular, in the last decade, we've seen technology starting to become more apparent in the way in which citizens are receiving services. And the innovation we're looking at is whether civic technology companies, so these are companies that often come from outside of government, they're not traditional digital consultants, but they're playing an increasingly large role with government, how they can be vectors of change. I'm interested in this partly because my research is about administrative burdens, and what we found over time is that a key way to reduce the burdens that people experience in government is through technology. And there are a couple of really interesting case studies that we're planning to study over the next couple of years, some fascinating experiments. So for example, in California, they have this amazing app that increased access to SNAP or food stamp applications, and that the state government is now taking over from the civic tech company Code for America. And we're going to study that transition process to see if the innovation that's coming from this nonprofit sector actually ends up being instilled or embedded in the state government. Another fascinating experiment is the IRS is attempting to move towards direct electronic filing for free for taxpayers. They're going to pilot this next year, and we're sort of fascinated about whether this is going to work or not, and the degree to which this will be an experiment that really pays off in terms of making it easy for people to file their tax returns without having to pay. And historically, that's not been the case for a variety of reasons. And so this is another opportunity for technology to embed itself in government. The sort of broader question here is whether technology can become this force for innovation and change in government, whether it can change the way that people experience government, and what role can these outside forces play in fostering that change. We think this is flying a little bit under the radar, and so we think that Georgetown has a role in sort of identifying these innovations and maybe sharing them with the broader world. So we became interested in this partly because the Better Government Lab has worked with some of these civic tech firms. So for example, we work with Code for America, which in turn is working with a bunch of state governments where they're trying to update access to the safety net by using technology. And so we're partnering with them, we're partnering with the state governments, and it's this unique opportunity to see if these innovations are actually going to work or not, and to understand why they work when they work and why they fail when they don't work. And so this is really sort of an interesting opportunity for people like me who's interested in how government works and the role in which technology plays a difference and the role in which these outside actors can be vectors for change. The traditional criticism of American government in particular is that they've been too slow to adopt digital innovation compared to other rich countries, and that often they don't have the capacity in-house to manage these processes of technological change, and so they rely on consultants or outside actors whose goals might be somewhat different from the goals of government. This nonprofit civic tech community is therefore this super interesting vector of change that we want to study up close. Ultimately, we hope this makes a difference in a couple of ways. One is just as academics, we're interested in these questions, but there really are more practical questions. One is whether these sorts of outside-inside relationships between government and the civic tech world can generate innovation in a way that's quicker, more open access than traditional digital operations within government, which tends to rely on a lot of private sector contractors. So the other question is what our governments can do to prepare themselves for such change. And so part of what we're interested in is studying variables like leadership, organizational culture, what are the veto points within government that make it more or less likely that this innovation takes place, embeds itself within government, and becomes something that lasts in the long run. Ultimately, all of this hopefully will help citizens to get better access to the services that they need.